Hi again, this is Chris, and I'll be taking you through Module 10. We're going to look at problems and solutions questions and causes and solutions questions. So in this module, we're going to look at what is a problem and solution question, what are some common mistakes, give you a band 9 checklist. Importantly, look at how many problems and solutions you should include in your essay. We're going to look at a few different structures that you can use. There's not just one structure for these questions because it depends on how many problems and solutions we're talking about. Give you some useful language and look at planning, idea generation, writing the whole essay, and vocabulary, so taking you through step by step through everything. So in the previous module, we did discussion essays. Make sure that you are not skipping through these lessons. Remember to complete each lesson and fully understand each lesson before moving on to the next one. So if you haven't completed the previous lesson, make sure that you go back and fully understand that. So what is a problem and solution question? You'll hear me talk sometimes about problems, plural, or solutions, plural or problem, singular, solution, singular. I'm sorry that that's a little bit confusing, but IELTS being IELTS, Cambridge sometimes writes singular problems, sometimes plural, sometimes singular solutions, sometimes plural, plural meaning more than one, singular meaning just one. So I have to talk about these because if I didn't, then it would be even more confusing. Sorry if it's a little bit confusing in the beginning, but it will be much simpler for you after you complete this. So let's look at some examples. Many people strive to maintain a successful career and happy family life at the same time. What problems can this situation cause, and what are the possible solutions? So this question is asking us, what problems can this situation cause? So it is asking us to talk about the problems, and it is asking us to talk about more than one problem. It is also asking us to think about solutions. How can we make the situation better? And it is asking us in this question to discuss multiple solutions, more than one. Here's another one. Natural resources such as water, forests, and oil are being used at an excessive rate. What is the main cause of this problem? How can this issue be solved? So this one is slightly different because in the first question, it is not asking us to talk about the problems. It is asking us to talk about the cause. So even though it has the word problem in it, it is not asking us to state the problems. It is asking us to state the cause of the problems. Don't worry if you're a little bit confused about the difference between those. Many people are, and we'll discuss that in this lesson. How can this be solved? The other difference between this one is that it is singular. How can this issue be solved? It's not asking us for multiple different solutions. It is just asking us for one way that we can solve this problem, one solution. And what is the main cause of this problem? It is just asking us for one cause, not plural, not more than one cause. So we need to be aware of two things. What are they actually asking us to do? Are they asking us to discuss the problems or the solutions or the causes, or what are they actually asking us to do? So we need to be very careful with that. And we also need to think about, is it singular, just one, or is it plural, more than one? So what's the difference between a cause and solution? This often causes a huge amount of confusion, especially on test day. When you are under pressure, you're feeling stressed, and you're rushing through everything, and often you will just see one word and think that it is that, but when you really look at it deeply, it is not that at all. So for example, I stay up all night playing video games, and when I wake up, I'm late for work. So what is the problem here? So the problem is that I am late for work. What is the cause? The cause is I'm playing video games. So the problem, I'm late for work, maybe I'm going to get fired, and the cause is playing video games. So there's a difference between the cause and the problem. The problem is I'm late for work, or I'm in trouble with my boss, and the solution to that would be get to bed early or stop playing video games. So you can break everything down into what is the cause, what is the problem, and what is the solution. When you are thinking about these questions, that is a good way to think about it, and that means that you're not going to get confused. Let's have a look at another problem that many of you might have. So I don't study IELTS and I fail my test. I don't get the score that I need. So what is the cause, what is the problem, what is the solution? The problem is that I failed my test, or the problem might be you cannot emigrate, or the problem might be that you can't get the job that you deserve. There are many different problems that causes. What is the cause? So let's look at one example. I'm not saying this is you. I'm sure this is not you, but for many students, it might be that they were just lazy. Other students might have had a bad teacher. Other students might have been told by someone that they don't have to study and the test is really easy. But the cause for this student was they were lazy. What's the solution? Work harder, do more work, find out your problems, solve your problems, all of these different things. But again, it's a good way to distinguish between what is the problem, what is the cause, what is the solution. So on test day, if you get stuck in any way, think about these just simple examples, playing video games and being late for work, or try and think of a simple problem that you have in your life. What is the problem? What is the cause? What is the solution? So let's have a think about these common mistakes. So getting confused between problems and causes, we've already discussed that. Not answering the question by not following the plural singular rule. I'll tell you about this in this lesson, so don't worry if you don't understand that. Not developing main ideas or listing too many ideas. It is very common for people to be able to think of many different problems. Human beings are excellent at thinking of problems, and that's how many of our brains are wired. Not so good at thinking of solutions. So you'll often see in student essays that they will be able to think of many different problems, and their whole essay is just a list of different problems, but because they have listed so many different problems, they haven't developed those problems. And also many people answer these questions using the wrong structure. They will answer them like an opinion essay or a discussion essay. You need to make it very clear to the examiner that you understand that this is a problems or causes and solutions essay by clearly stating these are the problems, these are the solutions, or these are the causes and these are the solutions. If you want to get one of the higher bands, you need to state answer to the question in the introduction. You need to make it very clear to the examiner that you've understood the question and this is your answer to the question in the introduction. Have at least one relevant problem or cause depending on the question and a linked solution. Your solution should solve the problem. Your solution should be linked to the problem that you are discussing. This is going to make it much easier to think of a solution because all you will have to do is, okay, what's the problem and what is a solution to this problem? And like everything in IELTS, keep it simple. You do not have to think of the most groundbreaking, revolutionary solution to the problem. Like the example we used before, the student being lazy, we don't have to think of a complicated solution for that student. Just work harder. Again, it is a very human trait for human beings to think of very complicated solutions and ignore the very simple, straightforward solutions that they have. Look at the weight loss industry. It is very simple about how you lose weight. You move more and you eat less. Go on into any bookshop and look at how many different diets there are. That is evidence that human beings really make simple things complicated. Or if you go to a gym and ask people about going to the gym and exercising, they will spend more time talking about the equipment and the type of exercises and protein powders and different things and spend more time doing that than just exercising. So If you were struggling to think of solutions, just keep it simple. Develop the above fully with explanations and examples. We're going to show you how to do that in the structure. And a short conclusion summarizing your main points. So how many problems and solutions are we going to include in our essay? The question often states problems and solutions, plural, with an S on the end, indicating that the question is asking you for more than one. However, sometimes the question states problem, singular. If you have 2 problems and 2 solutions, you'll have to write about 350 to 400 words if you fully develop them. So in the past, our rule has been just use one problem or one solution and fully develop that problem or that solution. Because if you add in too many, even if it says problems and solutions, then to fully develop that and satisfy the marking criteria, then you're going to have to write like nearly 400 words and you just won't have time to do this. So before it was fine to write just one problem and solution. However, this has been changed by IELTS. I think that IELTS have understood that they're asking 2 impossible things. They were asking students to answer the question and fully develop everything. So what they have done is they have provided guidance to the examiners and basically said that the most important thing is that the student answers the question. So if it is singular, just put in one, but if it is problems or solutions or causes, plural, you need to put in more than one. Now this still leaves the problem that you might write way too much if you fully develop both of those. So what we have done is we've come up with a new structure that we're going to share with you that satisfies both. And we've double and triple checked this with all of the existing and ex-examiners that work with us and outside consultants as well, and it satisfies everything. So here's another example. Many people strive to maintain a successful career and happy family life at the same time. What problems can this situation cause? What are the possible solutions? So this is a problems and solutions essay, and it is plural. All right, so they want you to say more than one problem and more than one solution. Nowadays, many people complain that they have difficulties getting enough sleep. What problems does lack of sleep cause? So this is problems, plural. And what can be done about lack of sleep? What can be done about lack of sleep? So this is just asking you for one. Let's have another one. Many working people get little or no exercise either during the working day or in their free time and have health problems as a result. Why do many working people not get enough exercise? So this is asking you for one cause. What can be done about this problem? It is asking you for one solution. So remember the 2 things that we need to ask ourselves when we're analyzing the question. What are they asking me to do? Are they asking me for a problem, a cause, or a solution? And remember, just because it has the word problem in it doesn't mean that it is asking you for the problems. What can be done about this problem? That's asking you for a solution. And the second thing that they're asking you to do is think about, is it plural or singular? If it's singular, you only have to write one, but if it's plural, more than one. Here's another one. In spite of the advances made in agriculture, many people around the world still go hungry. Why is this the case? One cause. What can be done about this problem? One solution. So sometimes it is 2 plurals, sometimes it is 2 singular, both singular, and sometimes it is 1 singular and 1 plural. I'm sorry, I don't write the questions. I don't work for Cambridge. I just work around them. I wish it could be a lot simpler, but what they're really testing is your ability to understand questions and think about the questions and answer those questions. They're not going to make that easy for you, because if it was easy, then it wouldn't be a real test. But once you know what to do, then it is quite easy to work around this. And we're going to show you different structures that you can use. So the plural and singular rule is, if singular, then just include one main idea for that question. If plural, then include 2. Don't include more than 2, just include 2. We will show you how to write a fully developed plural paragraph, so don't worry about this. Okay, so the structure, the overall 4-paragraph structure that we're going to use is our introduction, paragraph 1. If it's problems, we're going to put that in paragraph 2. Same with causes. Solutions, we're going to put that in paragraph 3. So these are 2 main body paragraphs, and then we're going to finish up with a conclusion. I put the S in brackets here because sometimes it will be singular, sometimes it will be plural. Don't worry if that's a little bit confusing. It will become a lot clearer. Now we're going to look at these structures. So if both are singular, what we're going to do in paragraph 1, we're just going to paraphrase the question as normal, and then we're going to briefly state what problem and solution are. If it was cause, you would just use the exact same structure and say what the cause and the solution are. So there's just one, so we're putting just one problem, one solution into our introduction. This makes it really clear to the examiner that we've understood the question and makes it really clear what the answer to our question is. Then we're going to take that same problem from our introduction, we're going to put that into our first main body paragraph. Our topic sentence is just going to be what the problem is. Then we're going to explain that problem, and then we're going to talk about the result or the results of that problem. I have found that with problem and solution essays, this is a very useful way to think about explanations. So explain why it is a problem, and then what is the result of that problem. Every problem has a result. So the problem of you being late for work, that results in your boss being angry with you. And then an example of this problem. Nearly always, you will be able to think of a real example. Problems are quite easy to think of examples for because our world is just surrounded by problems, and as human beings, we are very aware of what those problems are. So feel free to use a real problem. Try and think of a problem in your local area, your country, the country you live in, maybe your job, something like that. Solution, state what the solution is. So our topic sentence is just going to be our solution. Explain how this solution will solve the problem, and then an example of that. So try and think of a way that this problem has been solved already, or people are trying to solve it already. And then paragraph 4, you're going to summarize your main points. Your main point is going to be, this is the problem and this is the solution. So for the solution, to try and think, like if somebody came to you with this problem and said, I have a big problem, how am I going to solve it? What would be the most simple, straightforward solution for that? Okay, so here is the structure for both plural. So we're going to start off with our introduction. As always, we're just going to simply paraphrase the question. Then we're going to briefly state what problems and solutions are. So we're going to outline our problems and our solutions. So that will normally be 2 problems and 2 solutions. So paraphrase the question and then outline our problems and solutions. Paragraph 2 is our first main body paragraph, where we're going to go into detail on our problems. So we're going to state our first problem in the first sentence of the first main body paragraph. Then we're going to explain that first problem. Then we will state our second problem and explain that second problem, and then give an example for the second problem. Now, as long as you have one example in there, that is totally fine. You don't need to put 2 examples in one paragraph. What I would do is just pick the problem that you know the most about and you're most comfortable giving an example for. Then in the third paragraph, our second main body paragraph, we're going to go into detail on our solutions. And it's exactly the same as the problems. We're going to state our first solution, then explain our first solution. Then we're going to state our second solution, explain that second solution, and then we're going to give an example for the second solution. Finally, we're going to conclude our essay with our conclusion, and we're going to summarize our main points. So that will be stating what the problems and solutions are, restating them by paraphrasing them. Okay, so here is the structure if you have one plural and one singular. So again, always going back to the fundamental principles of answer the question. So if it states, what are the problems and what is the solution to this problem, then you simply state two problems and one solution. So in your introduction, as always, you're going to paraphrase the question in the first sentence, and then you're going to briefly state what the problems are and what the solution is. So you're going to outline the problems and the solution. Paragraph 2, you're going to state two problems in that first main body paragraph. You're going to state the first problem, explain the first problem, state the second problem, explain the second problem, and then an example for the second problem. And then in your third paragraph, your second main body, it's just singular. So just what is the solution, explain the solution, and give an example of the solution. And then in your conclusion, you're going to summarize your main points. So I know that many of you will be a little bit confused. If you are, just keep it simple. Focus on the question. What does the question say? Answer the question. If the question is asking you to deal with plurals, answer it in that way. If singular, answer it in that way. I know that it's a little bit frustrating, but a better way to think about it than, oh, this is complicated and they're making it unfair, a better way to think about it would be that 99% of other test takers are going to be really, really confused by this and are probably going to mess it up. You have this knowledge and you are going to prepare properly, so you have a massive advantage over those people and you are probably going to get the score that you need. So let's look at a question, and we're going to have both plural and singular. Many people strive to maintain a successful career and happy family life at the same time. What problems can this situation cause? So it's problems plural, and what can be done about this problem? So one solution. So here's my introduction. Many try to have success at work and spend enough time with their family. It's my paraphrase. The main problems this causes are exhaustion and child behavioral issues. So idea number 1, exhaustion, and idea number 2, problem number 2, child behavioral issues. And the most viable solution is designated periods of family time. So one solution. All right, so I briefly answered both questions. Okay, so let's have a look at this problems paragraph. Maintaining success in one's career and happiness at home often results in burnout. So this is problem number 1. So we're going to explain problem number 1 now. This is because achieving both requires substantial amounts of time, and one must forego activities required for relaxation and recuperation. Now we're going to move on to the next problem. Another issue is the children of people with these aspirations are less likely to conduct themselves appropriately. As these parents are often preoccupied with issues at work, they ignore their children's unacceptable behavior instead of guiding them to behave within the confines of what is accepted by society. So we've stated our second problem and explained what we mean by that. Let's look at the example. For example, in Silicon Valley in California, employees are put under huge pressure to work long hours, and behavioral problems at school are more abundant than in similar schools elsewhere. So as you can see, what we've done, so we stated two problems in one paragraph, we've explained both of them, and we have put one example for that second problem at the end. And you would just pick the problem that you know most about, or you can easily think of an example and put that in there. This one will be a little bit shorter, but it's not much shorter. I think this is around 100 words. So often students worry too much about there being unevenness in the number of words between the paragraphs. Don't worry about number of words. Focus on hitting the quality score, including the main elements in the structure. So solutions. There's only going to be one solution in this. To tackle this problem, families should designate strict periods that are for family only. So one solution. This is to say that the parents would decide upon a time each day that cannot be interrupted by work and is solely focused on quality time with each other. I'm explaining what this means. This could be each evening or on the weekends and would help parents relax from the pressures of their career, and the child would get the attention they deserve without anything distracting their mother or father. So this solution solves both of the problems. The parents are less stressed out and the children get to spend quality time with their family. For example, it is traditional for many families around the world to eat dinner together and they can discuss their day without any unwanted distraction. So this is a real example. If you look at most cultures, most countries, there is a tradition where the whole family sit down together. If your culture is different, I apologize. I'm just using my own experience. But in most countries, I believe that this is a thing where each day the whole family will sit down, and it's not really designed, I think, for eating. It is more designed where the whole family can spend time together. So again, you don't need any fancy data or university surveys or anything like that. Just think of one real example from your own life. In your country, it might be different. In your country, you might have prayer time together, or you might have time at the weekends, or it might be breakfast or something like that, or it might be something I don't know about because I'm not from your country or I haven't experienced your culture yet. Don't be afraid to use real examples from your own life experience. And our conclusion here, in conclusion, striking the right balance between home life and working life is a major issue that can result in people working themselves too hard and not having opportunities to teach their children how to behave appropriately. However, it can be addressed through strictly adhering to agreed upon times that are just for family bonding. So as you can see, what we've done there is we've summarized our main points. Okay, now we're going to go through everything step by step. We're going to look at planning, how to write an introduction, supporting paragraphs, conclusion, and vocabulary. So here's the question. Natural resources such as water, forests, and oil are being used at an excessive rate. What is the main cause of this problem? How can this issue be solved? So the first thing we need to do is look at the topic, the keywords, and very importantly, the instruction words. So the general topic, the overall topic is the environment, but we're not going to write everything we know about the environment. We're going to focus on natural resources and them being used, not just being used in general, but being used at an excessive rate. They're being used at an unsustainable rate. And often students will ask me, it's a very common question. So the question says water, forest, and oil. Do we need like a paragraph all on water and then one on forest and then all on oil? And if we don't talk about all three, do we get a lower score? No, think about what Cambridge are doing here. The person writing this didn't put water, forest, and oil in to make it more complicated for you. They put this in to help you understand what natural resources are. Because imagine that the question didn't have such as water, forest, and oil in it. So it just said natural resources are being used at an excessive rate. That would be too difficult for most students because natural resources can mean many different things. So such as water, forest, and oil is just a definition to help you understand the question. It is not an instruction that you must talk about all three of these things. You can if you want, but you don't have to. As long as you're talking about natural resources being used at an excessive rate, then you'll be absolutely fine. And the main thing that we need to think about is singular or plural, and is it problems or causes? What are they actually asking us to do? What is the main cause of this problem? So don't fall into the trap of seeing problem and being like, okay, what problems does this lead to? No, what is the main cause? So it is cause. In other words, why is this happening? And they just want one cause. How can this issue be solved? Solution, singular. So this is singular, singular. Idea generation. So some possible causes could be overpopulation, there are too many people in the world, lack of environmental laws, so some countries don't have very strict environmental laws, or people in the West, so rich developed countries, have very excessive lifestyles. So the question is about excess and about unsustainability, and you think about places like America, the UK, when you think of those things. And solutions, you don't always have to use these, but this is often what you will see because these are the things that tend to solve problems on a big global level. So when you're trying to solve big problems, like problems that a government would have to solve, or problems that many governments together would try and solve together, it will be about public awareness campaigns, educating people, legislation, that means new laws. This is how normally big problems are solved like this. So if you're really struggling to think of solutions, then these three might work for you, but not always. Don't go in trying to think of it this way. Another good way to think about it is these are problems that normally exist in the world, which means that there are already solutions for them, or there are already attempts to solve these problems. So a good way to think of solutions is to think of examples first. What is an example you can think of a solution, and then work backwards from there. So structure planning, I'm going to paraphrase the question, and because there's only one problem, one solution, I'm going to state that in my introduction. One problem, we're going to use Western lifestyles as my main idea. What is it about Western lifestyles? Well, they overconsume, it's unsustainable, and the results are huge energy consumption. Examples, SUV cars, multiple electronic devices, and things like that. Solution, education. Explain long-term solution in school, so educate young people so that in 10, 20 years they won't have this problem. An example, Germany. Many of you will have visited Germany, and it is one of the most environmentally conscious countries in the world. If you go and speak to young people there, they'll be talking about recycling and conserving energy and green energy and things like this, and they're very much up to date on this type of thing because they've made a conscious decision to include this in their education system, and they've done that for years. And then we're going to summarize our main points in our conclusion. Here are some words and phrases that we could possibly use. As I said before, you don't have to do this. This is more for very advanced students who have a lot of time, or students who really struggle with vocabulary and want to spend 2 to 5 minutes just really thinking about vocabulary by taking some keywords from the question or from their ideas and trying to think of accurate synonyms for these. So in introduction, we're going to do this. First, we need to paraphrase. The planet's resources are being consumed at an alarming pace. Means the same thing and is accurate, so we can move on. The primary cause of this phenomenon is the wasteful lifestyle in many countries in the West, and the most viable solution is to educate their young people about this issue. Cause, solution. Someone should be able to read this paragraph and understand what you think about the question. And again, it is about keeping it simple and being able to think clearly. This person who wrote this has thought very clearly about the cause, about the problem, about the solution to the problem. It is very clear in their mind. Therefore, it is very easy for them to write a clear paragraph. Someone who doesn't understand the question, is very stressed out, is rushing through everything, and hasn't really thought clearly about it, is not going to be able to produce a very clear introduction. It doesn't matter how good their grammar, their vocabulary, their writing skills are, because it really is part of the test, is testing your ability to think clearly about the questions and about the topic. And if you can do that, then you're going to be in a much better position than someone who is actually much better at English than you, is much better at writing than you. If you can get better at thinking, then you're going to be way above 99% of people, because most people do not think clearly at all. So here's our plan for our first supporting paragraph, our cause. So countries in North America and Europe have a culture of waste. Now we're going to explain that. That is to say that their lifestyles involve consuming lots of natural resources for their transport, food, and leisure time. This results in a huge amount of energy being consumed in the form of petrol in cars and coal and gas and electrical power stations. Many have become so used to this type of luxury that it is very difficult for them to contemplate a life without modern conveniences. For example, the most popular car in the United States is the SUV, which has the lowest fuel efficiency of any car, and it is not unusual for the average home in Europe to have a TV in every room along with many other electronic devices. Here's our plan for our solution. So we're always looking back at our plan, because remember, our plan is linked to the question and we need to answer the question. A long-term solution to this predicament is to educate young people about the dangers of consuming resources irresponsibly. Children in schools could be taught about how to conserve energy and recycle so that the next generation will act more responsibly. They are also likely to teach their parents about the things they learned at school, and adults will also be influenced by this initiative. For example, school children in Germany were taught about the consequences of treating the planet in a reckless manner, and now they have one of the highest rates of recycling and renewable energy in the world. Conclusion? In conclusion, the planet is being depleted at a staggering rate because American and European citizens consume more than their fair share of energy, and their children must be taught that conservation is the only answer. So let's review what we've done. Don't forget to review your essay, as always. Make sure that you've stated at least one problem or cause and one solution in your introduction, depending on the question. Have one paragraph for each. Develop these main points with explanations and examples as we've shown you using the structures, and a short conclusion summarizing your main points and reiterating your opinion. Here's some of the vocabulary that we used to show you the level of vocabulary that you need to use. And here's what we did in this module. I'll see you in the next module where we'll look at advantages and disadvantages. I hope you enjoyed this module, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.